Hi, welcome to Something Simple and Light with Tolu Alao. In this podcast, we talk about three key areas: process improvements, manufacturing excellence, data analytics, and visualization. The goal of this podcast is to discuss practical ways to improve your operations day in, day out. Wow, there's so much to cover in these episodes, and I really hope that you pick one or two things that you can apply in your operations immediately. Fantastic. Let's jump into today's discussion.
Change management principles. All right. So change generates resistance, and this is something that we need to understand. It's a very critical aspect of process improvement. And so it's important that we understand how to manage this change because people generally are not comfortable changing their ways, moving from what they have been doing for years, changing, moving from business as usual to a very unpredictable unknown, right? And if you ask us truly and truly, it's not easy to, just stop doing something. In fact, some of these things are habits that you've formed for many years in terms of how these operations are done, in terms of how this business is run. And so you have to, have the necessary skill sets to know how to manage this change, right? And if you're familiar with the way friction works, you know that when you try to change things, it's like you're rubbing your palm, right, together in opposite direction. Of course, you expect some form of friction, some form of resistance, some form of heat, and that's when you start hearing different things. Oh, that will not work. That's how we do it here. That's why this is how it has always worked. This business has been working like this for 100 years. What do you want to tell me that I don't know? And you hear all sorts, right? And it's your role as a process improvement professional to know how to manage this kind of conversations, what is required to, reduce this resistance, right? The reality is that you might not win everyone, but you need to at least win a critical mass for your project to be successful, right? And so we a couple of change management principles. But first of all, what is change management? Right? Change management is a systematic approach to handling transition or transformation. So we have different ways of handling, people handle change differently, right? But how do we build a system around managing people all through these phases of transition, moving from where we are to where we want to be? So it involves parts where you support people, you prepare individuals, you help them, and organizations, work through all of that change, right? So that's what change management really involves, right? So there are three popular change management models that I would like us to look at. We have the Lewin's change management model. We have the ADCA. So ADCA is an acronym, but we'll get into it shortly. And we have the Kotter's 8-step change management model. These three models will, give you a framework for managing change, and it's something that you should always have handy. So whenever you have a project, before you jump into, the technical part of, oh, give me this, oh, let's use this tool, let's use that tool, give them this, oh, the idea is fantastic, people should just take it like that. We need to, go through this model and look at how do I prepare my guys for this? How do I walk them through? How do I reduce the resistance, right? Before we get into that. All right, so we'll move into each of these models. Okay, so Lewin's change management model. So Lewin's change management model was developed by Cotley in 1940s. That's pretty old, right? But it's still relevant to date. All right, so his model is also called unfreeze, change, and refreeze. And that's the three steps for Lewis change management model. So what he says essentially is using an ice block, right? The analogy of an ice block. And so if you have an ice block that you want to change into a pyramid. So if you look at my diagram here, I have this block of ice, right? And I want to change it to this block of pyramid, right? How do I change, how do I transition from this point to this point? I can use chisel and force this and change it by force, right, to get it to this point. But that's going to come at a very huge cost. I'm going to have to chip up a lot of these parts. I'm going to, apply some effort and all of that. But Lewin's principle is really straightforward, right? He says that you should unfreeze. So you bring this ice block, which is where we are now, and unfreeze it. So you bring it out of that cold place and let it melt, right? And then you have a new mold where you put this liquid water. I'm trying to just give you a high level before we go into each of these steps, right? And you put it in this new mold with this new shape and you freeze it back. So you have unfreeze, you change the mold, and you refreeze. So that's basically what he's saying. That's the logic. And so let's take it one after the other. So if I was to unfreeze, what does unfreeze in practical terms? Now, what does it mean to unfreeze in terms of managing change? And that involves preparing people's mind, preparing the organization to accept that change is necessary. And so here you need to create some form of awareness for people to know that something is about to happen, and this is why it's important. The organization needs to change in this direction for this reason. We're not at this point talking about, oh, we must start it immediately, we must do it now, but we need to make people understand why this is necessary. Why is this change necessary? And that's what unfreezing is about. This is the point where we start asking questions, start challenging. Why are we doing things like this? Why are we really doing things like this? You want to get people to start questioning the status quo, right? And that's what unfreezing is about. Challenging what we're already doing, asking questions. Why is this important? Why are we even doing like this? Why are we attending to customers like this? Why are we producing this kind of materials? Why are we using this material? Why are we using this supplier as an example, right? And so here we ask a lot of questions to, create awareness and challenge that status quo, right? And move to the next stage, which is to cause an actual change, right? Right. So now we're talking about, oh, there are so many things that are changing in the unfree stage. We've agreed that people are beginning to, oh, okay, now see, wow, this thing is true. Why are we doing it like this? And now the next question is, okay, so what do we need to do now? What do we need to change? What do we need to, do differently to achieve the results that is required for us as a business, right? And so people start to believe that, there's actually a better way, right? Maybe there's a different direction we can take, right? And during this change phase, that's where you begin to, show new behavior, show new principles, explain things differently, right? This is what we need to do. This is how we need to get to this point, and all of that, right? Get people ready for this change by explaining to them in practical terms, this is what needs to be done, right? And if you look at my diagram here, you see that this is where we bring out this new way of doing things and explain that, okay, this is what we have to do. They've already agreed and accepted that something needs to be done. Now we are showing them this is what needs to be done, right? And it takes us to the final stage, right, where we refreeze. And so that's when in this new mode, so we've shown them the new ways of acting, the new behaviors. This is where we reinforce those new behaviors. This is where we begin to reward people who have adopted this new behavior and punish those who have refused to change, right? And so this is when we now start, rewarding or having some form of recognition for those who are doing well. And for those who are yet to, come on board, this is when you now start showing them that, what, is either you accept this or you move on. And sanctions have to start being made, yeah, because now we want to enforce and reestablish this new, reinforce this new way of working, right? Again, this boils down to the fact that you have leadership support, right? Because a number of these things require that you have the backing of management. Imagine that you're, changing things and management tells you that we're not sure about this thing. It seems like our people are complaining. Let's go back to what we were doing before. This is not going to work. That already means that your next project doesn't even stand a chance, because as it stands now, you've not been able to win management support. And so why this is why gaining leadership support in any project is very critical, because when change starts happening, there will be a lot of resistance. There will be a lot of resistance. All right, so that's Lewin's change management model in a nutshell. So you have unfreeze, then you change, and you refreeze. So that's basically Lewin's change management model.
Fantastic. I trust you've been able to pick something from today's episode, and I look forward to hearing about your success. For more content like this and to keep in touch, you can follow me on LinkedIn at Toluwani Alao. You can also subscribe and follow me on YouTube, also at Toluwani Alao. Until next time, just give me something simple and light.